and welcome to the TMF Middle Ground on Does Having a Pet Make Me a Parent? If you're new to TMF Debates, in part 2 of every topic, we aim to find a middle ground so that peace may grow from our conflicts. We aim to do this by showing you the 3 major crossroads on our way to an area of agreement, known as the TMF Middle Ground. For full context, though, make sure you check out part 1, which is the full-on verbal fisticuffs, which you can get to if you click or tap the iCard right now, or just watch after this episode. For a quick refresher, tonight we have pro and anti. Pro standing in the pets definitely make you a parent corner, and anti opposing the concept that a pet can make you a parent. If at any point you hear anything you agree or disagree with, please join the debate in the comment section down below. The topic of being a parent to a pet can cause great annoyance and discomfort for many, mainly because the two sides generally come to the table with their hearts and minds already made up. Our greatest agony is often a result of talking about parenting versus training, the level of commitment involved, and pets as family members. For the first crossroad, we find ourselves in immediate conflict that can end the debate and kill friendship. Some debates that we're going to talk about require me to issue the TMF warning before we get too in-depth, and this is one of those. That warning again is, if you ever feel unsafe or attacked, feel free to walk away or change the subject. There's no shame in it. We aren't debating to make enemies, we're just debating to seek resolution. The resolution of our first crossroad of parenting versus training can be a very tricky one, as these terms are interchangeable for some. Pro and anti are going to need to work together to find out where they stand on these definitions. Can we go ahead and put up the definitions of both? Thank you. How we proceed will depend entirely on how these two terms are being used, so please make sure that you and whomever you're talking to take the time to decide whether you're going to use these standard definitions or you're just going to pull from them and create your own. If you disagree, though, that these terms are interchangeable, you're going to need to start with a good old agree to disagree, and then we'll shift into the second crossroad about commitment before even addressing this first point. However, if either side is open to discussing the differences between parenting and training, we'll want to explore what both of these terms imply. For me, parenting comes from a place of love, and training comes from a place of authority. While parents absolutely do have authority over their children, this will diminish as they age, while in contrast, the authority that one has over their pet never really changes or diminishes, thus meaning that these terms technically could be mutually exclusive. If we objectively look at these terms in action, training usually requires a more structured approach to ensure a desired outcome, while parenting is more of a nuanced activity because it must be tackled differently for every child due to their individuality, despite the fact that there are numerous books and courses out there about parenting. Pro can take this point to their side as well, using their own pet's individuality. To pass this crossroad, make sure that you and whomever you're talking to discuss how you differentiate between parenting and training, if you do at all. How we use these terms is going to be a key cornerstone in how we go forward. That being said, if you and whomever you're talking to don't agree on these two words, well, I'll address that more in the second crossroad. Moving forward with our unified terminology, we will hit the second crossroad, and that is how much commitment it takes to become a parent. Now, this crossroad can be very offensive to those on the pro, so we must tread carefully unless we want to end the debate immediately. Again, there's no shame in walking away or changing the subject if you need to, but if you and whom you're talking to are still open to conversing, now we can discuss what we believe constitutes as a commitment. Beyond a rare few, I'm certain that most people would agree that human life is more important than pet life, especially if that human is your offspring. It is not socially acceptable to abandon a child if they're struggling with toilet training, for example. However, if you can't housebreak a pet, it's rather socially common to surrender that animal to a shelter to avoid further destruction of your property. This is where we're going to bring back in our previous definitions of parents and trainers. And if you two haven't agreed on definitions yet, Let's just keep talking about these terms as mutually exclusive. Colloquially speaking, a trainer isn't permanent and they're removed once the subject is trained and graduates, while in contrast, a parent is always a parent to a child. Pro may truly believe that they earn the title of being a parent because they are ones who would endure the hefty pet bills. In contrast, anti would not qualify as a pet parent because, even if they do value their pets' lives, they're certainly not going to go in debt for them. Caring for yours when they're sick, injured, or troublemakers is just generally a universal expectation for all parents. And to move through this crossroad, anti is going to need to concede to the fact that there are pet owners out there that take this responsibility as seriously as any human. Now, this fact alone may not convince anti that they are actually parents, and that's okay. Anti just needs to remain open-minded to the concept that commitment may very well be a qualification for parenthood. At this point, we should address a hole in anti's judgment, and that being that there have been many irresponsible humans that have procreated and don't care for their children. Procreation doesn't automatically make you a parent, in my eyes. That is a title that must be earned through love, devotion, and commitment to your offspring. Now, I'm no authority on the matter, and I'm not here to convince you of my opinion. I only bring this up because Pro usually retorts at this point with this obvious fact. And so we will need to further expand our definition of what makes a human a parent as we cross into the next crossroad. Before you do so in real life, you'll likely want to discuss more topics about what constitutes as commitment more than just the medical examples I've mentioned briefly. But for the interest of time, let's move forward. Once you've decided what level of commitment further separates a parent and a trainer, now both sides can move into the final crossroad. That disagreement being whether pets are family members. In the last crossroad, we broached the topic of whether parents should be responsible for their children when they have medical emergencies. And now in this crossroad, we're going to discuss why we'd even feel compelled to do so. Family, in a traditional sense, is usually held in a very high reverence. Typically, we'll do anything and everything we can for our beloved ones, regardless of the hardships that may befall us as a result. And you've probably already guessed it, but Pro likely has these feelings towards their pets as well. To move through this crossroad, Pro will need to be open to the reality that some on the anti do not value their pets more than our own species. You may have heard these people use terms such as, well, they're just animals. Not everyone is an animal lover, and that's okay. But it can be a great challenge for Pro to deal with, especially when they learn of animal suffering and they feel compelled to help. Pro will need to accept the fact that there are people on the anti that devalue their pets below the rest of the human family. Progress isn't all Pro's responsibility though, as anti is going to need to learn to be okay with the fact that Pro legitimately does see their pets as family members. For both sides to move forward, anti is just going to need to concede that when a pet moves in, they technically do become part of the household. Whether both sides agree that pets are family members doesn't matter as much as them both just agreeing that pets are additions to the household. After we've discussed this family issue, both sides should revisit their definitions between a parent and a trainer and see if we can narrow them down a little bit more, or expand them if we need to, or for those who haven't defined them yet, see if we're ready to define them. Again, both sides don't need to agree that pets are family to move forward. Simply acknowledging the validity in their opponent's opinions is enough to move into the middle ground. The TMF middle ground for "Does a pet make me a parent?" surrounds the concept that parenting is open-ended, it lacks a concrete definition. Within the first crossroad, we strive to define parenting and training, and over the last two crossroads, we've hopefully expanded upon those definitions. Now, let's break away from those definitions for just a little bit and entertain a hypothetical situation with me. Imagine yourself at the store. It could be a general store, grocery store, just a store, and your child starts to throw a hissy fit. Now, if you actually are a parent or you've seen this happen, you'll be well aware that there are many people out there that are willing to throw out their expertise into your life. They've only met you and your child for the first time and only under the circumstances of the child having a hissy fit, but suddenly they consider themselves an expert on how to raise your child. This annoyance is not unique to parents, though, as pet owners likely know. Whenever people learn that I have cats, they feel obligated to tell me the best diet they believe that for them. Or they want to inform me about a new pet furniture that I need to buy. Or the infamous inquiry of, are you going to dress up your pets for Halloween? And for the record, I tried. And no, just no, my cats are never going to be in costumes, please stop asking. This annoyance felt by parents and pet owners alike is where I believe that we can find and start to build a foundation for a middle ground. Moving away from our direct definitions for a moment longer, let's start to embrace the similarities that one takes upon themselves when they are responsible for another's life. Late night throw up, sleepless nights, and a crying baby are both accurately describe my experiences with my own child and my old puppy as well. And if you have any unique scenarios that could be applied to pets and children, please go ahead and share them in the comment section down below. While our definitions are important to help us understand the other person's view, it is my belief that in these similarities is where we're going to find true unity. If we do not embrace the similarities between both sides, we'll often find ourselves at that good old agree to disagree. If you've come to that point, I suggest using these examples of the shared hardships to try to create a common bond. And from there, just bring in those old definitions and try to find some areas where pet owners can now fall under the parent definition rather than the trainer definition. This final expansion is key in moving the middle ground away from the abstract and into a more concrete arena. Even if you can't fully agree with that person that you're talking to today, or you need to change the subject and walk away, hey, you're more ready for the next time this debate comes up. Now that you've watched this episode, you'll be more prepared for the main disagreement surrounding parenting versus training, commitment involved in parenting, and pets as family members. What do you think, though? Is this middle ground reasonable considering the topic? Is there a better use of the definitions we've come up with? Please, whatever your thoughts are, join the debate with me in the comments section down below. And thank you so much for spending your time with me. And now, let's wrap this episode up. Hit that notification bell to make sure you're back here in 2 weeks when we visit the new TMF debates on should I teach my children about holiday characters? And if you're watching it past that initial 2 weeks, just go ahead and click or tap right there to watch it now. For more TMFisms, please check out the description box down below for easy to follow me links across the interwebs. And a huge special shout out to my Patreon members for helping me bring safe debates to you and everyone that you disagree with. As always, this has been TMF. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the time in whatever zone you find yourself. Get us!